Yes, well, I'm John Kavanagh, and I came here in 1959 when I was 17 as a novice, and did my year here before going on to Alton, Birmingham, for my 3 years so-called philosophy, after which I then did my 4 years theology at Crawley in Sussex. Eventually was ordained priest there 1967. I've seen a lot of changes, yes, some good and some bad. Generally speaking, I think are good changes, really, apart from maybe from the point of view of our way of life and charism, perhaps we've lost something of our original oomph, if you like, become perhaps very much like many other religious orders, if you like, lost something of our distinctive spirit in some ways, not totally. For me, my memories of the British province would be connected, I suppose, not surprisingly, with the ministries in which I've been involved, really. But of course, there is another dimension which is just important, the fraternity dimension, community dimension. And yes, there would be some things that stand out in the province regarding, there are funny incidents and memorable ones because of certain people who did certain things. I'm difficult in a way. I'm very much, at least naturally, an introvert. So I kind of can very often manage without people, but many people have influenced me, many friars. I mean, I could think of working, for example, my time, only 3 years, working on the mission band. When I used to work with Frank Hickman, he used to call me his sergeant. I think because I carried the projector, we had a 15 millimeter projector anyway, and we used telecatics. We thought it was great and modern in those days. That would be in the 80s, and we were very different characters, but I enjoyed working with him in various places, during parish missions, not so much in schools. That was another part of my experience in the preaching. I used to work for 3 years on what we called church caring visits, working with other priests, sisters and brothers in secondary schools. But that was distinct from the mission band, where we would spend 2 weeks in a parish. The first week visiting, how I'd be knocking on doors for 5 hours a day for a week, and then we'd come back in the evening and have a nice meal in the place where we were staying, in the presbytery, with the parish priest and or curates, and let our hair down for a bit, I suppose, and relax. So that time was good. I did some prison missions, only a few, and that was a good experience. I remember, again, working with a team, ecumenically as well, Methodists and Church of England people. I remember the first one I did, I'd never tasted porridge as I did in that prison. It was very, very good. I remember we went into one, it was an open prison, and they took the team to the probation department, and one of the first things they did was they told us to write down our own 10 commandments, which was interesting, and more interesting still when they asked us to make a list of ways in which we've broken the law. I won't go into details about that, but that was quite interesting at the time. And of course, my two, I suppose, most interesting times ever was one when I was, well, maybe three, when I was in Crawley in Sussex in the 70s, when we started Crawley Aid the Homeless, and every spare moment I would be down in a house which we rented from the local council, helping in the hostel with single men, a very small place. But then later on in Sussex, we started an organisation called Snowflake, In those days it revolved around soup kitchens, and it's still going, and now they do, I say we, I feel part of it still. We accommodate people as a night shelter in various ways. That was a very good one. And another memorable time was when I was in Penmaenmawr, not a million miles from here, with the Friars Minor, 2 Friars Minor, and the 2 of us Capuchins. We had an experimental community, a house of prayer. That was very interesting. I was parish priest in Penmaenmawr, and with a fellow Friar Minor, 1 week we were the workers. We cooked and cleaned, and the next week the other 2 carried out that work, and we concentrated on prayer. That was very interesting, just 3 years of that. And more interesting, and still, I suppose, my best experience actually was down in the place I mentioned before with the soup kitchens. I was with another Friar Minor, just 2 of us, and we lived opposite a Catholic church, at the side of which was a convent of sisters who'd come from Arundel to live there at the request of the bishop, to be amongst the poor people. And I managed to spend 4.5 years there, working in the community, on call at the hospital, working in soup kitchens, starting this project I mentioned, visiting a couple of psychiatric units, and generally helped out in 2 parishes. I had a motorbike, and that got me around. I started off with a bike, but I don't know if you know Hastings, it's quite hilly. And so fortunately, one of the parishioners gave me a Honda 70, and later on went on to a Honda 125. And Philip brought it here eventually and was riding for a bit here. So they were happy days, doing work, being amongst, if you like, poorer people, which is a mark of our order, Capuchin order, to be with poor people. Something we're looking forward to doing up in Durham. And I've expressed my interest in going to Durham. I don't know yet whether or not I will be going, but it will be another example of me, of Franciscan living, Franciscan work amongst the poor, if that comes off, you know.